To order. First of all, I want to thank everyone who's online, either by phone or video. Thank you for attending tonight. We're happy to see everybody here. In order to make sure that we're all on the same page, and that I just want to go over a few things. That if you are, please mute yourself. If you wish to speak, you need to contact the call-in number to be put on the list. That number is 445-5501. Excuse me, 02-5502. That will connect you to Ann. She will put you on the list. You will be called to speak in the order that that list has. So I just wanted to say that. So what we need to do first is, are there any changes to the agenda from my board members? Any additions, changes? Please speak up since hearing none. Okay, we will move on. I need a motion to approve the minutes from June 17th.
So moved.
Thank you, George. Is there a second? Amy, I see your hand. Will you second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye and raise your hands so that I can hear everybody. Aye, great. Thank you. Anyone opposed, please say nay. Okay, the minutes are accepted. We'll move on to number 4. Before we do that, I just want to say that the board appreciates that all of you have joined us this evening. And we look forward to hearing all of you speak. I just want to go over some of the ground rules so that we're all on the same page. And if you just, for those who might not know what we're doing and why there's so many people on meeting tonight, the board accepts the decision that the decision to raise the flags is for some people controversial. We are in receipt of a petition from some of our voters regarding that decision. And we wanted to state publicly at the outset of public comment that we appreciate both the effort, which must have gone into collecting those 500+ signatures, and appreciate the fact that we have so many people who are willing to participate in the democratic process. The petition itself will be discussed by the board after public comment is completed. Before we open for public comment and start allowing the public to speak, I just wanted to go over a review of the steps that led us to this meeting. The board's decision to raise the Black Lives Matter flag and the Pride flag did not stem from just one person's request, as may be portrayed by some people. Rather, this decision was the culmination of a lengthy process, which included work by the board's policy committee and a district equity committee. For the past 2 years, there has been a district equity committee that's composed of staff, administrators, parents, and 2 of our board members. The committee has examined all aspects of equity, ranging from teaching, books, technology, and more. The school board has received periodic updates during the past 2 years from that committee of its work. And while this work was going on, the board's policy committee was working and developed and presented an equity policy that was adopted by the board at its May 20th meeting. That policy was the result of the district's strategic planning and board goals that were adopted by the board in August of 2019. Those goals are available on the district website under the school board section if anyone would like to see them. The board at its June 17th meeting received from the Equity Study Committee the final report with recommendations for action. The committee proposed the recommendations to be implemented over a period of 4 years. And the board, believing that this was too long a period of time to implement such important changes. Here it is. Could I ask that everyone mute themselves, please? Thank you. The board believed that this was too long a period of time to implement such changes and shorten that time frame to 3 years. The board then accepted the recommendations of the committee, committing both the district and the board to doing the necessary work to fulfill the recommendations. Both the equity policy and the equity plan are also on the website. They're on the opening page, and if you click on the equity link, you'll find them. At the June 17th meeting, the board received a student request to fly the Black Lives Matter flag. In the context of approving the district equity policy in May and the district equity report, and recommendations, the board felt the request was appropriate, was aligned with our equity work, and agreed to fly the Black Lives Matter flag and the Pride flag. This was not meant as a political act, but rather as a statement that we recognize that systemic inequities have for too long been put our students at a disadvantage in their learning. By raising these flags, the board is committing the district and itself to working to create an inclusive learning environment. A flag committee has been created and is working on making that process both meaningful and age appropriate for our students. The board will hear later this evening from that committee, and I would encourage all of you to listen to that portion of the meeting as well. The board accepts that this act is controversial for some. The decision, however, was not spontaneous. It was a result of lengthy and thoughtful process, and it did not occur at just one meeting, but rather spanned not only months, but years. The board believes its decision aligns with its commitment to equity and the plan the district is implementing. Now to move on to public comment, the guidelines are, as I mentioned, anyone wishes to speak, you need to call 445-5502 to be placed on the list. That number will be open until 7:15 p.m. And you'll reach Ann Diggs, our superintendent's administrative assistant. She will document your name, and that will be the order in which you're called upon by the board for public comment. To facilitate the public comment, only those people who are on that list will be able to speak at this meeting. When it is your turn to speak, please state your full name. Every person recognized by me as chair will have up to 3 minutes to speak. I will let you know when you have 30 seconds remaining. I'll give you a high sign or interrupt you and just say 30 seconds. And I will advise you when your time is up. When your time is up, you will be expected to yield so the next person can speak. You're not allowed to allot your time to anyone else. Everyone will only have one opportunity to speak during public comment. Of course, we expect that there will be no cursing, yelling, or other disrespectful comments or conduct by anyone. I will not allow any member of my board to do that or any member of our administration. We would expect the same from the people who are attending the meeting. In the interest of allowing as many people to speak their comments as possible, please try not to repeat exactly what may have been discussed by someone else. If you simply indicate your agreement with other comments, if that's appropriate, we would greatly appreciate that so that we can move things along and allow everyone an opportunity. If you would like a written response to any comments that you make that have not already been responded to by the board in writing, please submit your comment along with your request for a response in writing to communityengagement@millriverschools.org. When the public comment portion of the agenda is concluded, all public participants are required to leave the virtual meeting so the board can continue on with the rest of its business. The meeting itself is being live streamed right now on YouTube, as indicated on the agenda, and I would encourage all of you to please continue to watch the meeting via the live stream. Anyone who does not disconnect would be automatically disconnected from the meeting. Thank you so much. We'll move on now to public comment. And Dave, do you have that list? Who are we going to hear from first? Dave, are you there?
Thanks. I am. Thank you, Tammy. Hey, just our audience, so that no one is wondering where am I on the list or am I on the list, I'm going to read the names that I have currently in front of me. If I do not read your name and you intended to speak, once again, I want to ask you to call Ann at 445-5502. Once again, that's 445-5502. She will take your information and put you on the list in the order that you call, and she wraps that up at 7:15. So on the list in this order, we have Todd Fillmore, Ken Fradette, Christian Brand, Donald Jackson, Madison Aiken, Emily Joselson. Please forgive me if I say any names incorrectly. I apologize. Nan Dubin, Kate Getz, Jennifer Sanford, Rich Clark, Jonathan Fine, Sarah Sally Lincoln, Jess Venable Novak, Erin Gluckman, Brian Dalton, Ellen Bevere, Shannon Pitlik, Julia Doran, Karen Stever, Carol Tashi, Heatherildebrandt, Art Peterson, Jan McCoy, Margaret Oakes, and Heather Kent. currently 27 individuals on that list. So once again, if you plan to be there and you did not hear my name, 445-5502 and speak to Ann. Thank you very much. So first person on the list is Todd Fillmore. Todd, are you out there?
*6 to unmute yourself, Todd, if you're calling by phone. Todd? No, Dave, could you make a note if Todd doesn't answer us, and we
Can
can
you hear me?
put him. Ah, there you are,
Okay,
Todd. Yes,
Thank you.
we can hear
Thank you.
you.
Technical difficulties.
And I can appreciate that. So I'll start the timer if you're ready to begin. Okay, Todd?
Ready to go.
Okay, thank you. There you go.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Todd Fillmore. As stated in my recent letter to the board, school promotion of selected political messages violates the neutrality mandated by the Common Benefits Clause of the Vermont Constitution. And on those grounds alone, the board must disallow all such use of public school property. But I wish to focus also on the forceful promotion of the LGBTQ sexual message to students. To many, the flying of the LGBTQ flag on public school flagpoles is open indoctrination of school children towards sexual anarchy. This truth is explored in my letter, which discusses some uncomfortable facts about the problematic nature of bisexual relationships in particular. Some view such matters with indifference, but as a 57-year-old custodial grandparent legally responsible for a 7-year-old child, this discussion is not an academic exercise for me, but one which my wife and I have lived every day for the last 6 years. Some of the men who have impacted my own family are an example of the distressingly low bar our culture now sets for sexual behavior and responsibility. 3 men who have sired 13 children with multiple partners, children who are largely unsupported by their fathers, and most will never know them within the bounds of a loving marriage and nuclear family. These children are living collateral damage of a failed cultural experiment in self-gratification and hedonism. And it's grandparents like us, single mothers and educators, who are increasingly picking up the shattered pieces and shouldering the burden. This is not progress. This is decay. The writers of the Vermont Constitution had the wisdom to foresee and inhibit such anarchy. Quote, laws for the encouragement of virtue and prevention of vice and immorality ought to be constantly kept in force and duly executed, end quote. Do you, as selected school board members, have sufficient wisdom to heed their warnings? After 2 daughters, a grandchild, and 27 years experience with this school system, I am now convinced that the answer is a resounding no. We have lost faith in the values of MRU, and we are now strongly considering withdrawing our grandchild from this school system. I thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it. Dave, who's next?
Next up is Ken Fradette.
Ken, are you out there?
I'm here, Tammy. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Again, are you hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Again, my name is Ken Fradette. I'm from Wallingford. My wife and our 3 children are all graduates of Mill River, and I served on the board for a time. We all have a healthy appreciation for diversity, and we applaud the board's recent decision to show support for equality and inclusiveness. And I want to just relate some background for me. In 2016, NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick started kneeling during the national anthem at football games. And my initial reaction was, like that of many, he was being disrespectful to our flag and our country. But I soon came to understand that Kaepernick was not saying there were any lives that don't matter. They were saying that Black lives need to be lifted up to be on an equal footing. And I would implore the purveyors of the petition the board's considering tonight to learn the story of former Green Beret and combat veteran Nate Boyd, why he convinced Kaepernick to come off the bench, literally, and stood beside him the first time Kaepernick took a knee. It was an eye-opening story for me. I'd also like to share a quote from Ijeoma Aluo that is specific to racism, but can readily be applied to any form of hate. And it goes, the beauty of anti-racism is that you don't have to pretend to be free of racism to be anti-racist. Anti-racism is a commitment to fight racism wherever you find it, including in yourself, and it's the only way forward. This board gets that, and they are taking us forward. It will be known to all that Mill River's doors are open to educate our young people, and there are no restrictions based upon skin tone or gender identity. and there never will be. Thank you, and everybody stay well.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you.
Next speaker is Christian Brand.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, a pleasure to see you all this evening.
There you go, Christian. Are you ready? I'll start the timer. Oh, you're muted. There you go.
Oh.
No, you're good.
All good?
All good.
Okay, I'm ready. Hello, my name is Christian Brand, and I'm a proud gay man from the class of 2015. First of all, I want to thank the school board for listening to students' voices and passing the equity policy back in June. When I first heard that, I was overjoyed to hear that Mill River was taking a step in fostering change and standing with their students. I'd like to share parts of my story and experience with you. When I attended Mill River, students would use hateful terms and slang constantly, whether they knew it or not. I remember people saying, "Oh, that's gay," or would call other students and myself faggot. I would constantly have to fight back until I proved that I was one of them, that I was straight like them. These slurs continued up until the day I graduated. Although I had friends and faculty who I know would support me, I did not feel as though it was a safe space to be myself. In fact, it wasn't until 2.5 years later that I started coming out to my friends and family, and it was the first time that I didn't feel ashamed. Since then, I've personally known several friends and acquaintances who have come out and started living their true lives. Imagine how I and others would have felt if we saw a pride flag wave across the school grounds. How we could have been given the chance earlier to be ourselves and thrive. Mine and many other stories would have been significantly different. Now, if I felt ostracized being a white gay man, imagine how a POC felt seeing a small handful of people that looked like them in a 90+% white school and community. Dare I mention an account where a faculty member used the N-word in class and played it off as just another word? I speak not on behalf of POC, but as an educated ally. People of color have been given unfair systemic disadvantages. These flags are not politicized or sexualized, but rather acknowledgments of those who have been belittled for generations to let them know that they matter. Every life and community matters, and I'm not saying it doesn't. However, it is time to stand with those who have been oppressed. I say Black lives and queer lives matter because all didn't cover Black or queer when they wrote with liberty and justice for all. Today, a letter of support was started by alum to stand with the school's decision to fly these empowering flags. As of now, that letter has over 150 signatures in less than 3 hours. I will close with reflecting on Mill River's tagline, which is to explore, discover, thrive. How can one thrive when they do not see themselves represented in the community, nor feel safe to be themselves? To quote the Tony Award-winning Best Musical Kinky Boots, "You change the world when you change your mind." Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christian. Thank you very much. Dave, who's next?
Next, we are joined by Donald Jackson. Donald Jackson.
Donald?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Are you ready? I'll start the timer.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm ready. All right. When I first heard about these flags that are going to be flown at the district schools, I felt like it was almost alarming that school board members for a public school would agree to fly anything but the U.S. and the state flag. Any organizational flags seem inappropriate to me. The Black Lives Matter flag is not just a slogan. There's an organization behind it. And some of the things that I've read and seen interviews of people that are members of this organization are alarming. And to support, when you fly that flag, you're supporting that organization. And when you have people in the organization, founders of the organization, saying they are Marxist, you fly that flag, you are agreeing with Marxism. This seems alarmingly inappropriate to me. And as far as the gay pride flag, that is basically inflicting your values on other people. Just because someone doesn't want the gay pride flag flown doesn't make them a homophobe. All right. Prayer was eliminated from schools many years ago because it was inappropriate to inflict your religious beliefs on other people. To me, this is the religion of liberalism, and it is being inflicted on my grandchildren that attend school in the Middle River School District. And it's a highly divisive issue that really didn't need to happen. This sort of thing only divides communities. And we have far too much of that in the United States right now, far too much of it. And we don't need to be doing it in these small towns in Vermont. It seems completely inappropriate. And that's all. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next, we're joined by Madison Aiken. Madison Aiken.
Madison, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you.
Okay, I'll start the timer. Thank you.
People of color and the LGBTQ community members and their supporters have been talking about issues of representation, justice, curriculum improvements, and global citizenship for decades, but many white community members have not been motivated to act or listen. I'm surprised and grateful that the act of flag flying has motivated people to engage in this work. Although these conversations may seem divisive at first, they're a necessary component for growth for some white heterosexuals. I've heard people who oppose flag flying say that education is not political. Education is political. It's 100% political. We vote for school board members. We vote for school budgets. We vote for bonds to repair and improve our schools. We vote for local representatives who bring policy and concerns to our governor, who we vote for. We recently voted on school consolidation, and all of this voting about school is related to our property taxes, which is political. Unions are political. Education is political. Our pride flag will be prominently flown at all schools because work towards inclusion and respect has been ongoing in our schools for decades. Passing civil unions and eventually marriage equality laws created a curriculum change, cultural shifts, and classroom discussions. We have social skills instruction, health curriculum, and safety content that affirms not only LGBTQ identities, but healthy, cisgender, heterosexual identities. And this work begins the pre-K level. Flying flags is a frightening and infuriating realization for some straight white community members because they have come to realize that their view of America is not universal among white folks anymore. These flags display a commitment to all students, and the fact that we're here tonight to debate the value of flying them shows that this work is well underway. I know this process causes harm to our Black and LGBTQ friends. Many white folks in this community are trying to stand with you in solidarity. I hope you feel it, and I hope you reach out and you let us know how to be better allies and supporters. Thank you, MRU Board, for your ongoing commitment to equity and inclusion.
Thank you, Madison.
Next, we're joined by Emily Joselson. Emily Joselson.
Emily, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, great. There you go. I'll start the timer.
Okay. So my name is Emily Joselson, and I'm a carpetbagger from Middlebury, so my remarks will be brief. I want to echo the comments that I've heard from Todd Fillmore, Christian Brand, Madison Aiken, and others, I'm sure, who will come after me. I commend the board and all of its committees for the hard work you've invested to come to the decision to fly the Black Lives Matter flag and the Pride flag. I commend all the students like Reese, Eldert Moore, and others who worked hard to support and achieve these decisions and otherwise supported these efforts. It's so important for all educational institutions in all of our communities to lead public debate and discussion about the historical and systemic inequalities that have so long disadvantaged people of color, people with other identities than straight, cisgender, and any other marginalized groups, and to support inclusion, acceptance, and respect. And youth, especially those who take a leadership role, should never be permitted to be targeted or bullied in any forums. And I'm grateful for all the efforts to protect them when they do. Thank you so much for all your hard work.
Thank you very much, Emily.
Next we are joined by Nan Dubin. Nan Dubin.
Nan, are you there? Nan, *6 if you're on the phone. Nan, *6 to unmute.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Are you ready?
I am.
I will start the timer.
My name is Nan Dubin. I'm a resident of East Wallingford. My son attended Wallingford Elementary School and Mill River, and I've been a substitute teacher at all of our district schools over the last 20 years. I would like to voice my support for and admiration of the school board's decision to fly the Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ flags at our schools. These flags stand for equality, nothing more, nothing less. They are not, as some claim, a political statement. They are a statement of human rights. They represent the right of all students, white, black, immigrant, refugee, straight, gay, transgender, to equal treatment. This is a message of inclusion, tolerance, and acceptance, and I am proud of this board for their principled stand on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Nan.
Next up is Kate Getz. Kate Getz.
Kate, are you with us?
Hi, thank you. So my name is Kate Getz, and I'm calling in from Wallingford. I'm a parent of a recently graduated Mill River student and another Mill River middle school student. So I'm calling to support this vote and to thank the school board for making this decisive move. I just wanted to offer some anecdotal experience my two kids have had in the school district. My kids are biracial, and over the course of 12 years, since my 18-year-old started in Wallingford, both children have had race-based comments targeted at them or said in their presence at school. The earliest incident happened when my daughter was in 2nd grade. So my kids wound up feeling very alienated by these incidents, and a certain degree of trauma is inflicted with every incident that you have race-based aggression hurled at you. So, you know, my kids are lucky. They were on the receiving end of this intermittently. They did it. It was not a regular thing, but for some kids it is. An accumulation of that kind of trauma and stress impacts students' well-being and ability to access educational opportunities and reach their potential. So I would encourage folks to go to the Vermont Department of Health's 2019 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which really shows how students of historically marginalized groups are faring compared to their classmates who are non-Hispanic, cisgender whites. Students of color have significantly higher rates of behaviors representing jeopardized mental health than their non-Hispanic white classmates. And Vermont LGBTQIA students self-harm 4 times more often, attempt suicide 5 times more often, and are bullied twice as often as their heterosexual cisgender classmates. So by raising these flags, our district is not only publicly committing to taking actions to diminish these disparities, but it's creating a powerful learning opportunity for our school community. For those of us whose lives have not been made harder by the color of our skin, our racial physical features, our gender identity, or our sexual orientation, this moment is compelling us to use empathy and selflessness so that the lives of others will also be free of these hardships. In honoring the voice of the student of color who prompted the board to raise the BLM flag and making what they knew would be a contentious decision, our board has done what the late Congressman John Lewis compelled us all to do, to get into the good trouble, the necessary trouble that it takes to advance equality. So thank you, board.
Thank you, Kate. Next, Dave, who do we have?
Next up, we have Jennifer Sanford. Jennifer Sanford.
Hello.
Jennifer,
hi. Yeah, hi.
Okay, I'm going to start the timer. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Okay. My name is Jennifer Sanford. I grew up in a white rural district myself, and I know that I unwittingly said a lot of hurtful things out of ignorance just because I had no idea. And we had a teacher who was openly gay that I, as an adult, found many of his friends who were like, don't do it, don't come out. But he did. And he made that, he made himself real. He made queer rights real. And I wish we'd had somebody of color in our school who could have done the same thing. If you don't have those, a flag is your next best option. I think that Kate Getz, Ken Fradette, and Christian Brand were so much more eloquent than myself. So I'm going to end my comments there. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate your comments.
Next, we have Rich Clark. Rich Clark.
Hi, Rich. Are you with us?
Hi. I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. I will start the timer. Go ahead.
Very good. And I had written some a statement, and I'm just not going to read it because I was just so moved by what Christian Brand had said and the way he articulated that, and the data that Kate cites. We all know this. I'm an instructor. I'm a teacher myself, and I worry about the marginalized kids. The schools have an obligation to teach history. You cannot teach American history without covering not just the history of slavery, but Jim Crow laws, lynchings, redlining, and all of the impact that we're still experiencing today. So it's not enough to not be racist today. We need to be anti-racist. Raising the Black Lives Matter flag is a step in that direction. It's a small step, but it's a little step and a reminder to your students that social justice does have a role in public education. You teach civics. This is a matter of civics. It's a matter of the historical record. And before I quit, I would just want to say I'm really proud of the fact that you've made this decision. I know it's going to raise. It's always easiest not to raise controversy. It's always easiest to skirt and not be this, but silence is complicity. And I have two children who graduated from Mill River in 2015 and 2017. And I have to say, I'm very proud of you. And I hope to see that flag next time I'm visiting the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it. Dave?
Before we move on to Jonathan Fine, who is next, I just want to let the group know we had a few additions that squeezed in before we closed out the sign up. So Heather Kent was the last person that I announced on the list previously. After Heather, we have Kathleen Upton, Arn and Anna Majorel, Margot Jones, Andrew Moshavitis, I apologize, Andrew, and Betsy Jesser. So 32 total speakers, but we are back to you, Jonathan Fine.
Jonathan, are you with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can. I'm trying to find people on the screen if they're video, so I apologize if I look kind of like a deer in the headlights. I will start the timer if you're ready.
I'm ready. Thank you very much. My name is Jonathan Fine, and I want to commend you and thank you for making this hard choice and the right choice to raise the Black Lives Matter flag and the gay pride flags at your schools. It's one thing to say you understand the experiences or challenges of a particular minority group, and many think they may understand, but it's truly impossible for someone in the majority, a heterosexual white person such as myself, for example, to ever truly experience these challenges. By flying these flags, you begin to show both LGBTQ students and students of color that you are beginning the journey towards understanding the challenges they face on a daily basis. And it truly costs the people, those of us in the majority, nothing. If we stop and think open-mindedly, it costs us nothing to reflect on the challenges of those who are in the minorities and what they struggle against on a daily basis. And I thank you again for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much for contributing. Dave?
Next up is Sarah Sally Lincoln. Sarah Sally Lincoln.
Sarah? Sally? You're calling in. Okay. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay, we're ready. I can hear you. Go ahead. I'll start the timer.
Okay. My name is Sarah Lincoln. I just go by Sally, so that's just all that. So I'm a preschool teacher, and I'm a teacher. I live in Ferrisburg, and I'm a teacher in South Burlington, at a private school, a nature-based preschool, and I've been a teacher there 7 years, and I've learned that you can't just not talk about it. I'm 51 years old. I grew up in the colorblind time in Boston, outside of Boston, and everybody's equal, and it's not. And I want to applaud you. I'm coming here through joining the NAACP and helping people of color in all places, and this is one place that needed help. So I commend that you're a school, that district that will do this, and that you have a pride flag, and I just think it's great. So I'm just echoing on all the other things that were said, and yeah, you can't deal with it if you don't talk about it. So thank you very much for being willing to put yourself out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for your comment.
Next we have Jess Venable Novak. Jess Venable Novak.
Jess? Jess, are you there? Are you calling? Hi,
Yeah.
Jess.
Can you hear me? Awesome.
We can. Are you ready? Oh, there you are. Hi, how are you? I'll start the timer if you're ready.
I am ready.
Okay.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. As it's been said, my name is Jess Venable Novak. I use they, them pronouns. I live in North Clarendon. I am a non-binary person. For those of you who don't know what that is, that means I don't identify as male or female. So part of the transgender community. I am a parent to almost second grader at Clarendon Elementary who turned 7 today, actually. So happy birthday, Dottie Overable, and all the people on the call who love and care for her. Thank you. And I am a member of this community, and I have been for about 5.5 years. And I am very proud of the Mill River School Board for voting to decide to raise the Black Lives Matter flag and the Pride flag. I don't know if I've been more grateful and proud to be a part of this community before in the 5.5 years I've lived here. And I'm mostly here to say that my family and I are here. We're a part of the community. We wake up and we go to school. We wait at the bus stop. I volunteer. My daughter's a part of Rutland Youth Theater. I'm on the board for the Rutland Area Food Co-op. I used to work for the Downtown Rutland Partnership, pulling weeds around the trees and scrubbing graffiti off of the garbage cans, just because I think our community deserves to be beautiful. My partner works at Rutland Regional Medical Center and has for a long time. And before that, lived and worked in Shrewsbury at Spring Lake Ranch. And like someone else said, I think, we all know the data, or I hope everyone on this call knows the data because it's readily available and you can Google it on why this decision is important and why it's important to let our LGBTQ families, especially our youth, and our families of color, especially our youth, to know that they are cared about and valued in our community. And I also think it's really important to just let everyone on this call know that it's not theoretical. We're here. I'm right here. I am a part of an LGBTQ family. I'm an LGBTQ parent. And I do the same things that everyone else on this call does every day and contribute to the community in the same ways everyone else on this call does every day. And, in my part of my view is that it's not, my daughter is going to be proud of her family regardless if that flag flies in front of the school, just how I know Reese is going to be proud of her family.
3 minutes. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm here, and I encourage you to reach out, especially if you don't know any other LGBTQ families.
Thank you, Jess. I appreciate it. Dave?
Next we have Erin Gluckman. Erin Gluckman.
Erin? Erin, are you with us? Erin, if you're calling in, can you *6 and unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Hello?
now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. If you're ready, I'll start the timer.
I'm ready. Go ahead. Thank
Okay.
you.
Go ahead.
So my name is Erin Gluckman. I was raised in Clarendon Springs and now live here with my son and partner. And I want to just commend the board for making the decision to fly those flags. I was raised with 2 lesbian mothers.
If you're ready, I'll hold on one second. Could everyone please make sure they're muted so that we can hear everybody? Okay, you could go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want you to be.
Okay. No, that's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, all right. So I just really want to commend the board for making the decision to fly the flags. And I'm really speaking to you tonight as a former Mill River student. I was a student at Mill River in the early 90s. And as a mother who is hopefully raising a Mill River student, and also as a nurse, I work in the emergency department at Rutland Regional. Now, my parents, when we were living in Clarendon Springs, my 2 moms taught me the values of civic engagement and education and supporting everyone in your community, but particularly the people who suffered the most. But when I went to school every day, I didn't see my family anywhere. Nobody talked about this stuff. And it was even worse than that. Not only was nobody talking about it, but there's significant homophobia. There's a lot of homophobic jokes, racist jokes. And so it was very clear to me that school was not a safe place to be. So I didn't invite anyone over to my house, and I didn't talk about my family at school, ever. And the damage that did was so profound. When I saw that you all had raised the flag, I just was moved to tears, because that would have made a difference for me. To not see your family, to go to school every day, a place that you're supposed to be safe, and feel completely unseen and unsafe for your entire adolescence. It's an awful experience. So I feel so fabulous about living in a community where I know that whoever my son is, he's going to go to a school that has committed itself to safety. And I'm really proud of that. And, I understand that this feels like a political decision to some folks, and I really want to encourage all of us to think about it as an ethical issue that has become politicized by hatred.
Erin, just to interrupt you. There's just a few minutes left, so seconds left if you want to wrap up.
Sure. Okay. I don't have anything else to say except for thank you, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your call. Dave? Who's next?
Next up, we have Brian Dalton. Brian Dalton.
Brian, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm sorry. I just looked for where you show up on the screen. So, Brian, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Brian Dalton. I live in Arlington with my husband. I grew up in Vermont schools, and as a gay kid was actively or passively bullied throughout the whole 8 years. And as a result, I really, really wanted out of Vermont. As a result, my entire academic and professional life and all my taxes went to other states. Later in life, I decided to move back here, and I'm glad to, in part because we looked first to see what Vermont was doing in terms of inclusion. My husband's from an ethnic minority. We looked at how this lily white state deals with some of these issues. And it's a mixed record, as we all know. Many of the headline issues don't make Vermont look so good. And so it's very, very important, very, very important that the school is taking this decision to put up the Black Lives Matter flag, the Pride flag, any symbol that shows that despite being a lily white place with presumption of white privilege, that there are safe spaces and people get it.
I really commend the district. I commend Reese and the other kids who pushed for this. And I wish that what I experienced in the 70s and 80s was ancient history. And my Black and Latino classmates who would go to away games and they'd be taunted with racist taunts. And I thought that was ancient history, only to learn in the film Divided by, Diversity, that those things are still happening today. So I heard the gentleman earlier bemoan the fact that these flags are going up, and I also wish that they didn't have to go up. I wish it wasn't necessary to have these flags, but they are necessary, and it is to compensate for history. It is to compensate for what's going on now, so that people will feel safe, and the outside world will look at Vermont and see what we actually stand for. I fear people see the phrase Black Lives Matter and hear that only Black Lives Matter, but it's Black Lives Matter too. And by putting up these flags, it shows the intention of your community. And I think it's in the economic interest of the state, if I can be so crude to say so. People of the younger generation who are forward-thinking and professional, who want to look around the country of where to live, they won't come here if there's any question whether their kids will be raised.
Brian, I'm going to interrupt you, but you have about 15 seconds left just to wrap up. That's all.
Thanks. I appreciate the time limit. I've said my piece, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you for your call, Brian. Dave?
Next up, we have Ellen Bevere. Ellen Bevere.
Ellen, are you with us?
Yep, I am.
Oh, hi, Ellen. There you are.
Hi.
The people pop onto the screen. So are you ready to start?
I am, yes, thank you.
Okay, go ahead. I'll start the timer.
All right, my name is Ellen Bevere, class of 2012 at Mill River. I use she, her pronouns, and I am reading a statement from 180 so far Mill River alumni. We are a group of MRU alumni who are writing to you in support of the decision to raise the Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ pride flags in front of the school. Supporting Black and LGBTQ students is a basic acknowledgement of our shared humanity, and we wholeheartedly applaud this decision. We understand that members of the community have disagreed with this decision on the grounds that they find the flags to be political and divisive. However, the existence and validity of Black and LGBTQ people are not a political issue and should not be a divisive one. Many of us attended Mill River at a time when openly racist and homophobic statements and symbols were common within the school community, and feel that these flags represent a step towards a more inclusive, welcoming culture at Mill River. We are also proud of the fact that current students are the ones who requested these flags, and are glad that the school board has empowered students to be leaders in their community and express their compassion for others in this way. Furthermore, we assert that as an institution of education, Mill River has an obligation to reflect the factual history that created the necessity for symbols such as the BLM and pride flags. The facts of our country's past make it clear that historically, Black and LGBTQ rights have not received equal protection under the law. The facts of the BLM movement's creation show that it came into being as a response to police brutality against Black lives, and that Black Lives Matter is a complete independent sentence and does not imply that other lives matter less. The facts of these flags' history show that they came into being to protect their community's right to exist, not to spread an agenda. In the context of these facts, it is clear that the flags at Mill River exist to affirm the lives of its Black and LGBTQ students and of Black and LGBTQ members of its community. This purpose cannot and should not be considered political, but merely in service of our shared humanity. We call upon Mill River to resist the temptation to view this history as subjective and to stand with the truth regardless of whether that decision is popular. We hope that the school board will abide by its decision to raise the BLM and pride flags in front of the school this fall. We remain steadfast allies of Mill River's Black, Indigenous, and people of color community and LGBTQ students, and are proud of their commitment to equity and the support that the school board has shown thus far. In solidarity, and that was signed by 180 students in less than 3 hours, and in response to some biphobic statements that were made by our first speaker earlier, I would like to just say that I am a proud bisexual woman and I take complete offense to everything that was said. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you for your comment.
Next up, we have Shannon Pitlik. Shannon Pitlik.
Shannon, are you with us?
Yeah. Me?
Hi, Shannon. By phone. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot, and I certainly, can't say it better than it's already been said, but I just wanted to say that I'm really proud to live in a district where my kids in my school prioritize inclusion and acceptance, and they make that a priority. And so I'm really happy with the decision you've made, and I really appreciate it. So that's really all I have to say, is that I really support the decision that's been made.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you for your call. We appreciate it.
Next, we have Julia Doran. Julia Doran.
Julia, are you with us? Julia? Julia, star 6 to unmute. Oh, there you are. Okay.
My mute button got away from me. Oopsie daisies.
We've had some technical difficulties, so we'll start the timer if you're ready.
I am ready. Thank you so much. My name is Julia Doran, and I teach kindergarten and first grade at Clarendon Elementary School, and I am also a Mill River alum. In recent days, I have had the opportunity to educate myself as well as engage in meaningful conversation surrounding the school board's almost unanimous vote in favor of raising flags that acknowledge 2 historically marginalized groups of human beings. This engagement with both written material and dialogue has been enlightening, frustrating, and extremely disheartening. Members of the Black community are tired. Members of the LGBTQ community are tired. They are tired of begging people of privilege, people like you and me, to recognize they have experienced countless injustices. So it is time for people of privilege, people like you and me, to speak up as allies. These flags teach our children acceptance. These flags teach our children about specific groups of people who have fought and suffered and died for acceptance. People who continue to fight because history books refuse to teach truth and instead teach convenient, strategic versions of events. These flags teach our next generations to do and be better. They provide the basis for discussion that aims to educate. Isn't that what schools are for? A safe space for learning? If a vote is what is most comfortable for this community, if it is what we need to secure the raising of these flags each day, then my sincere hope is that the majority of this beautiful community, teachers, learners, families, and taxpayers, will vote in favor of recognizing Black lives and the lives of people of color, lives of those members of our LGBTQ community, lives of learners in our schools, like Reese, who urged our community to act. When we recognize these groups, we encourage conversation. We bring strangers together. My dream for the MRUUSD community is to be able to unveil a majority vote to keep these flags flying. When we recognize that Black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer lives matter, we only just begin to recognize that all lives matter. I want to thank you all very much for being here. And I also want to thank Christian and Ellen, and I would love to sign the petition. I'll get in touch with you somehow. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you for your comments. Dave, next.
Next, we have Karen Stever. Karen Stever.
Karen.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can. I'll start the timer if you're ready, Karen.
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
Thank you for your decision to raise the Black Lives Matter and Pride flags at our district schools. I echo the sentiment from supportive community members. These flags are a great start in communicating to students, parents, and school staff that our district is working to be inclusive and representative of all. If the Pride flag doesn't align with your religious beliefs, rest assured that we are all as free as ever to practice our religious beliefs outside of school. But this isn't a religious issue for LGBTQ youth, staff, and families, and those of us who love them. This is a human rights issue. It is also a matter of human dignity, of feeling valid, recognized, and loved as an equal member of our school community. Our schools belong to all of us and must be inclusive, not exclusionary. And speaking of human rights, it is past time our schools directly confront the plague of systemic racism that has dogged our nation since its inception. To those in our community who question this decision, I ask, what area of our lives has systemic racism not touched? Whether it is economics, criminal justice and policing, healthcare, education, or government, look at any system within American society, and you will find racism and bias deeply embedded in those policies. We have all been given the opportunity, now more than ever, to learn at a deeper level about our nation's racist history and the ways in which racism is perpetuated today. The United States was built on a foundation of white supremacy. If you grew up white in a predominantly white community, like I did, your colonized school curriculum likely did not provide you with the information you needed to be anti-racist. The great news is this information is out there and easy to find. Ignorance cannot be an excuse. We will not solve the problem of racism without first acknowledging it. We must see that our country is infected with the disease of white supremacy and then do the work to eradicate it. One of the most important places this learning will happen is in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. We appreciate your comments. I just wanted to make a note and let everyone know that we're being recorded and the chat is part of that record. So we should only have messages in chat that relate to the meeting itself as opposed to anything going back and forth between people, because it will be part of the record that's going to be online. So just so that everyone knows. And then Dave, do you want to tell me who's next?
Sure. Next we have Carol Tashi. Carol Tashi.
Carol, are you with us?
I am. Hi, folks. I'm not going to say much because people said some amazing things and said it better than I. I will just say one thing. Fully supportive of the Black Lives Matter and the Pride flag at our schools. Very, very proud to see that happening. I strongly discourage us from having a vote in the community to do the right thing. I was very involved with Rutland Welcomes, which was refugee resettlement in our Rutland communities, and was very against the idea of having a vote in our community to say whether or not we would accept those people. That's not the kind of community we want to live in. And I would say the same thing for our Mill River community, of which I'm very, very proud to be a part of. I'm a Wallingford resident. We cannot have a vote on this. We cannot have a vote to say whether we believe Black Lives Matter. We cannot have a vote that says whether we believe in inclusiveness and equity for everybody. And so I just want to thank you for the work that you're all doing, and I will sign off way under my 3 minutes. And anybody who knows me says, wow, that's amazing. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carol. We appreciate it.
Next is Heatherildebrandt. Heatherildebrandt.
Heather, are you with us?
Hi, yep, Heatherildebrandt.
Okay,
Ready to
Heather.
go?
Oh, there you go. Okay, I'll start the timer.
Thank you. I will try to be brief as well. First, I just want to say thank you to all those who were brave enough to speak tonight. It was really moving to hear your experiences. As a parent of 2 young boys at Clarendon and as a professional social worker whose job it is to oversee the mental health needs of school-age children, I am fully in support of the flags remaining at our schools. And hearing others' comments, feelings, and thoughts on social media and in this meeting tonight, I think it is imperative that the district take the stance that we see those who have been disenfranchised and we support their rights as humans. There is room for all of us to listen and learn from each other, and I look forward to the ways our district can foster that growth. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Heather, for your comments.
Next we have Art Peterson. Art Peterson.
Hi, Art. You were there on my screen a minute ago. Where'd you go? Are you there now?
Right there.
Oh, there you are. Okay. All right. Ready?
Yeah, I'm a Clarendon resident, taxpayer. I'm very proud to have been part of the effort with about a dozen or so people to get the 500 signatures on the petition signed. Those signatures are of our taxpayers here in this Mill River community, and they are very, very, very concerned about the 2 flags that want to be raised. I've heard a lot of all the comments tonight, and one thing I'd say, those flags aren't going to keep one kid from being racially taunted. They're not going to prevent one homophobic remark being made at all. The flags are a symbol. The Black Lives Matter flag is a symbol of an organization with Marxist roots. It's a symbol of an organization that's continually involved with violence. And when we put that flag on that flagpole, we're telling the world we agree with it. And I don't think the majority of the taxpayers in this community agree with it. any more than they would agree with a Nazi flag hanging on that flagpole. It's about the same thing to me. We don't need to politicize and sexualize our children's education. I feel that's very strongly what we're doing here. Beside that, taxpayers pay the freight here. We pay the freight. There's many more people who would sign our petition if we had time. We just ran out of time. We could have got many, many more. One thing to know, when I went up to people to get signatures and talked about Black Lives Matter, the first thing they said is all lives matter. There's not the tremendous amount of racism that I see portrayed here in the community. There just isn't. People want to treat everybody the same. And all these flags are going to do is divide our community. Okay, it's high time as a society. It's time now to come together. We have a United States flag. It unites us. We have a Vermont flag. We're all Vermonters. Those flags are what we need to have on the flagpole. How we educate our kids vis-a-vis race and lifestyle choices is something different. But the flags are a symbol. They're a beacon. They send a message. I have an opposite view of somebody that spoke who said that people would move here because of the flags. I feel the opposite. People that see the flag flying at their school may say, gee, I want to live in a community where there's not that stuff. So it certainly works both ways. I have to tell the board I'm disappointed in something. The speakers on this call should all be residents of the communities. There were 3 or 4 who came from someplace else, and if they took somebody else's spot, that's not good.
Art, your 3 minutes are up. So just if you want a final comment, 15
Okay,
seconds.
my final comment is Title I, Chapter 11, Flags, Insignias, Seals. Okay, Part 496D. Was that ever followed? Was the flag protocol, add these flags, ever followed by the district? That's
Okay.
something to look at in your.
3 minutes is up. Thank you, Art. Thank you
Yep.
for your comments. Next, Dave.
Just for a status check, we have 8 speakers remaining, just so everyone knows where we are with that. Next up, we have Jan McCoy. Jan McCoy.
Jan, are you with us?
Hi, I'm right here.
Hi, Jan. How are you? If you're ready, I'll start the timer.
Okay, great. So I just want to thank the school board for having this lively discussion. And Tammy, you are an excellent facilitator. You could run any meeting, in my opinion. I used to be a 4th grade teacher at Clarendon, and I had the honor now and privilege, I could say, to have Reese in my classroom. And when she was in my 4th grade classroom, she was an extremely remarkable person. And I can see that her thoughts and her way of thinking have just kept up with her all these years. And I want to thank her and the committee, I forgot the name of the committee you mentioned, for bringing our community into the 21st century. It is well overdue. And I just want to say I support the flag, and I support the Pride flag and the Black Lives Matter flag. And I'm just proud to have been a teacher in the district and also as a community member too. Just really excited about it.
Thank you, Jan. Thank you for your comments. We
Okay.
appreciate them.
Right, bye.
Next, we have Margaret Oakes. Margaret Oakes.
Margaret, are you with us? Hi.
Hi.
Start the timer. Go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Margaret Oakes. I go by Meg, and I am a relatively new resident of Clarendon. My partner and I chose to buy a house and pay property taxes in Clarendon in order to have my stepson able to enroll at Clarendon Elementary School. And I'm thrilled that the school board has made the apparently contentious decision to fly the Pride flag and the Black Lives Matter flag within the district. I feel like I can't say it more eloquently than anyone who has gone before. So I think what I'll say is something that hasn't been emphasized as much with this tremendous positivity that's been coming through, which is to say that while I'm really am happy and proud to be a resident and a community member in a place where the school board has made this decision, I am absolutely devastated, really, to hear that how easy it apparently was to get 500 people to sign a petition that, to my way of thinking, substantiates their commitment to a racist and homophobic stance. So I understand that that may not be their perspective, but that's my perspective. Systemic racism, systemic racism, and homophobia, but racism well before homophobia, are what has allowed all of us who have white privilege to be able to be taxpayers. To be able to pay property tax means you can own property. And that's generations and generations of contribution by our forebears that's not available, hasn't been available to Black people and other people of color in our country. So I'll just wrap up by also mentioning that I'm a nurse. I work at the hospital. I'm pleased to be an employee there. And I want to just offer my appreciation to all of you for the work that you're doing as community volunteers on a civic body. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you very much for your comments. Dave?
Next we have Heather Kent. Heather Kent.
Heather, are you with us? Heather, I'm not sure. Hi, there you are.
Hi, okay. So I'm on the phone because as a mom, I'm locked in the only place in the house I can get privacy, which is the bathroom. But I want to thank the board for your service to our community. And I praise those who in our community have shared their experiences tonight and allowed us to learn from them. I'm especially grateful for the women's suffrage movement, another unpopular movement of its time, because if our country was the country that the founding fathers imagined, as was stated in the paper today, a person possessing 2 X chromosomes, such as myself, would not be able to speak in any meaningful way to you right now. And Tammy, you would not be the chair. And several members of our community would be considered 3/5 of a person. So to continue, I'd like to quote my favorite musical right now. History has its eyes on you. The community has its eyes on you, as you well know, but there are others that have their eyes on you as well. Young people, children of color, young LGBTQ people are watching, as Erin Gluckman stated. So the question is, do you see them? By raising those flags, you are saying, yes, we see you. We acknowledge your truths. You are a part of us. And seeing all of your students and making strides towards equity is exactly in the lane of a public school. There's nothing political and nothing perverse about it. And I want to thank the school board for their step towards equity. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, for your comments.
Next we have Kathleen Upton. Kathleen Upton.
Kathy, are you there? Kathleen, are you there? If you're on the phone, you need to hit *6 to unmute. Kathy? Maybe we can.
Would you like me to move on, Tammy?
Yeah, we'll circle back.
Okay. Next we have Arn and Anna Majorel. Arn and Anna Majorel.
Arn and Anna?
I just did *6. Do you hear me?
Oh, okay. Anna, can we pause you for a second? And we're going to start to talk to Kathy. Kathy, are you there? We could hear you. *6 to unmute.
Would you like me to move on, Tammy?
Yeah, we'll circle back.
Okay. Next we have.
That was
we had
weird.
Kathy for a moment there. How about we move on to Arn and Anna, and we can come back to Kathy? Does that
We'll
work?
come back to you, Kathy. Hang on the line. Okay. Arn and Anna, are you on the line or on video? I don't see you popping up.
On the line, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Are you
Okay.
ready? I will start the timer. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to say that I absolutely disagree with the vote to raise the flags. So now that everybody's defenses are up, hopefully you can still hear me. So while you guys are interested in raising the flags, and I think a lot of you feel really good about that, let me tell you something about myself. So last year at this time, I spent a week in the Dominican Republic and brought my daughter, a life lesson for her, to see this. And what you guys talk about and experience here, you know, let me tell you, I don't have a lot of sympathy. I do have sympathy, however, for Erin, for her situation. And maybe I'll talk about that in a moment. But I spent time in the Dominican. I spent time in the slums there, in an orphanage in the slums that would make most of you cry. I am against raising the Black flags. I would consider myself anti-racist, not necessarily, you know, I know some of you have adopted. Our family hasn't done that, but we've done other things to help support, and I've raised my children. I have 5 children. One just graduated out of the MRU school system. So just because I'm against it, and I say this for a lot of the 500 people too that raised, that does not make us homophobes. You know, to me, I want to raise my children. I believe, you know, the most healthy environment for them, you know, for my daughters, you know, is to marry a man and raise children, and for my sons to marry a woman and raise children. But many of you, I think, know my children in school, and I would say that you would never hear them be disrespectful to anybody. So just because I don't agree with raising the flags does not, and I speak for many of us, hopefully all of us that are on that 500 petition, does not make us homophobes, okay, and does not make us racist. So let me just say something about the organization, because it's not the words that we're against, it's the organization. If you defunded the police to the point where that organization would truly want, all of you would be begging to have police back, okay? This is from an African American who did research into the Black Lives Matter and has this quote from Black Lives. They want to push for the decriminalization of drug offenses and the immediate pardon of all drug offenses, with reparations made to those convicted of drug offenses. Essentially, all folks, convicts in prison, they want to
have 10
put them
seconds.
back in the street. You know, and if you guys went into an environment where the majority of people without police were on the street, it would be begging.
And that's not helpful to Black people.
It's not helpful to African Americans.
Your time is up. Thank you.
I have one more comment.
No, I'm
Please.
sorry.
One more
We didn't allow that for anyone else. I actually let you go over by a few seconds like I did with a few other people, but that's really it. We have some more people to get to, and we still have a whole board agenda to get to. Thank you. Thank you for your comment, though.
Tammy, would you like to try Kathleen Upton very quickly?
Yes.
See if she's back.
Kathy Upton, are you on the line now? *6, and you could unmute.
Yes, I am.
Great, there you are. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm a resident of Wallingford, as you know. A senior citizen who's having trouble with this truck technology.
Would you like to try Kathleen Upton very quickly? Back.
Maybe, Kathy, if I could ask you maybe step away.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you now. We can hear you. It's just we hear the echo of the live stream, I guess.
Yes.
We can. Go ahead.
Okay. I live in Wallingford. I'm a senior citizen. A senior citizen who's having trouble with this truck technology. Are we still together? I've had 3 children.
Walk away from your computer while you speak. That would be helpful because we're hearing both.
Okay. Yes. Okay, I'm on 2 devices. Maybe I should not do that, huh?
Oh, yeah, just on one would be helpful.
All right. Let me get rid of one. Okay, this should help.
Much better. Go ahead.
So I have 2 is not better than 1, is it? I've had 3 children go through Mill River and 2 grandchildren. I just want to say that I support the decision of the board to fly the flag for Pride and for Black Lives Matter. I think that it is accepting and makes all students more welcome. The other thing that I think is of value is students who are the same as everybody else also benefit by learning to accept people who are not the same as them. It gives us better life skills, and I just think it's a really great idea. And if this gesture makes them feel more welcome, I think we should do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for your comments.
Tammy, next we have Margot Jones. Margot Jones.
Margot, are you with us? Hi.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I'll start the timer. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you for your vote. I really support the flags. The Pride flag and the Black Lives Matter flag are just another step toward All Lives Matter. And I think it's really important that we, know that that is the goal. But when you have marginalized groups who are not in the dominant party or the majority saying, hey, we don't feel like equals and we don't feel like we're part of the voice being heard, that you have to stop and listen, and recognizing that via these flags is an important part of education and recognizing history. And it's a great way to celebrate and acknowledge differences. So thank you so much. And I hugely and widely support the flags.
Thank you, Margot. Thank you for your comments.
We have 2 more speakers. Next is Andrew Moshevetis. Andrew?
Hey,
Andrew, are you with us? Yes, there you go. Go ahead.
All right, my name's Andrew Moshevitis. I'm from Williston, so I'll try to be quick here because I am not from Wallingford or the Rutland area, but I am part of the Rutland area chapter of the NAACP. So wanted to join here and be a part of this call tonight, so thanks for allowing. I do work for a company up in Colchester, Vermont, and I travel when COVID is not happening all around the country for work. I'm also a collegiate and a high school basketball official. Don't consider myself a very worldly person in that sense. I haven't been recently on a vacation to the Dominican Republic or anything like that. But a couple things that I've learned from officiating and in my professional life, I would tell you is that 1, you never know who's watching. And this issue, everyone's watching. The whole country is watching, the world's watching right now. It's not a small town issue. It's a global issue. The other couple things I'm really hearing from people here in Vermont, in Wallingford and around and from white people is that there's a lot of confused people. It's not, if a lot of people think this is BLM is a political issue, it is not. That's not the case here. Not educate you just to educate yourself a little bit more because this is a human issue. People that think that pro-Black movements are anti-white, it's simply because their experiences with pro-white movements that have always been anti-Black. That is not the case here. The other thing you hear a lot about is that people are uncomfortable. Okay, I get that. You got to hear both sides to the story. As a referee, I know that more than anybody. No decision's ever going to make 100% of the people happy. You do have to hear both sides. You got to listen to the people from BLM. You got to listen to Art and the ignorant things that he's saying. Okay, but that's not a reason to do nothing because you're uncomfortable. If you're just starting to feel uncomfortable now, welcome aboard. There's a whole big chunk of this section, your county, this state, this country, and this world that's been uncomfortable for a long time. You had a gentleman named Colin Kaepernick trying to tell you about it a couple years ago, and we as white people completely ignored it. So implying that somehow now the onus is on Black people to respond to white people's oppression in a gentler, softer way, that in and of itself is a form of violence. So you better learn to be uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Tammy, can I say something, please?
Sure, Doug.
Last individual, and he wasn't the only one, there was others before. This is a local issue done with the 4 school district, 4 towns that we have. Calling somebody else a name that was before them just because he didn't like what he was saying is not acceptable to me. I would hope that we would actually just work with the people that are in the district and are actually paying your salary and my salary for sitting here on every other Wednesday night. There's more I could probably say. I can't remember much of anything, so we'll let this go. Thank you for letting me help.
Do we have our last couple callers that we can finish up?
We just have one final caller, and that is Betsy Jesser. Betsy Jesser.
Betsy, are you with us? Betsy, if you're calling in, *6 to unmute, please. Betsy, *6 to unmute.
So if we don't have Betsy, that is the end of our public comment list, Tammy.
Okay, all right. Well, I would remind everybody that's still online that is not a member of the board that now is your time to disconnect, or you will be disconnected as we proceed with the rest of our agenda. I do want to thank everyone. I appreciate all the input and all the information from everyone, and I think that I speak on behalf of the board when I say that we appreciate everyone's comments. So thank you.
Tammy, if I could just add, for the folks disconnecting, Tammy,
yes. Oh, the live stream.
You do have
yes.
the YouTube live feed. That link is included on the agenda, so anyone disconnecting can continue to watch
Yeah.
the rest of
And
the
I would thank you for that reminder, Dave, and I would encourage you all to please continue to watch the meeting on the YouTube live stream. Thank you. And we'll give everyone a few minutes to disconnect, and then we'll move on.
Tammy.
Yes, George.
While we're waiting to get started, I just thought I'd share with BJ and other techies that I got a private lesson from Brian as to how to make this all work.
Oh, we
Thanks,
able
Brian.
to. What was the problem the other night? Did you figure it out?
Well, yes, and Dave ran into it today. Apparently, this computer does not want to drop Kendra's email, so it comes through on Kendra instead of me. So I don't know quite what the mix-up is in the software, but so anyways, thank you, Dave.
Happy to help, George.
Okay.
Tammy, I believe I am almost there with just getting with board members and staff. If you give me about 20 seconds, I can be sure.
Absolutely. I think everybody could get up and stretch if they wanted to for a second, and we will then move on.
We appear to be all set, Tammy.
Okay, so we will move on to the community petition discussion. This is only a discussion. I want to just let everyone who may still be listening, and I hope is still listening, know that this is a discussion only. So we want to formally acknowledge that we are in receipt of a petition that was submitted to me as chair of the board to submit to the board, which states, "We, the undersigned legal voters of the Mill River Unified Union School District, the MRUUSD, petition the school board to put forth and present an article to vote by Australian ballot related to the June 17, 2020 decision to raise Black Lives Matter and Pride flags at all 5 district schools. A special meeting shall also be called to address the community's questions. Said meeting shall be held within the district and at a time and place to accommodate the legal voters in person." And the petition was signed by 502 concerned citizens of the MRUUSD. And the petition cover letter referred to the Secretary of State's website as it pertained to the section regarding local petitions. The statute that it referenced was 17 VSA 2642, which is the statute that references petitions. And so we wish to formally acknowledge receipt of the petition this evening. We intend to have a board discussion on the petition this evening, and based upon that discussion, the board will respond in a formal manner to the petitioners. And the petition itself, for those of you who are interested, will be available with the minutes from this evening's meeting on the district's website. So I am the one who spoke to council, as the board knows. So to preface that discussion, I don't know how everyone would like me to proceed. Do you want me to just summarize what council told us that is public information first? And I see lots of nods. Okay, I will do that. And then we could open it up and everyone can chime in. So I guess by way of background, in order to understand the way a petition works and what the petitioners are asking the board to do, as it was explained to me by council, it's helpful to understand the roles and responsibilities that both the school board and the electorate or the voters have in relationship to one another. The electorate by statute is tasked only with very specific powers as it relates to the school board and the school district. And those duties are set out and consist of 11 specific responsibilities. And those include electing a moderator at our district meeting, electing a district clerk, voting on the budget, authorizing payment of expenses, authorizing the school board members to be receive some sort of a stipend, to authorize the school board to buy, sell, lease, or build school buildings, and to authorize the school board to borrow monies. Those are primary ones. The other ones are more relate to Robert's rules and things like that. And similarly, the school board is by statute given powers that are set out in the law, and those powers are a little bit more substantial. There's 27 of them, and they include determining educational policies, taking actions that are required for the sound administration of the district, the possession, care, control, and management of school property, educating our students, preparing reports, presenting the budget to the voters at the annual meeting, hiring employees, providing all the learning materials for our students, all the equipment and the supplies, awarding diplomas to our high school students, things of that nature. So as it was explained to me, we each have our respective powers. And sometimes questions arise as to who has the power to do what. In this petition, much like many other petitions that have been raised, there's a conflict of those powers. We've reviewed the petition with the district's attorney in light of the law, and we have been advised that the request for a vote by the voters by Australian ballot on the issue of flag raising is not within their statutory powers. And the voters cannot, by law, vote on something that they don't have legal authority to vote on. Consequently, the school board can't do something that by law it's not legally allowed to do. So there's been some emails that were sent to the board that referred to constitutional rights, and our council told us that we should refer to the Skiff case, which is a case against the South Burlington School District, where our Supreme Court basically had held that the electorate does not have a right to vote on any petition that instructs or advises the school board to do anything. We have a representative democracy. One of their main jobs as the electorate is to vote school representatives in. Those school representatives are tasked with using their best authority and their best decision making to make decisions on behalf of the voters. And basically that's where that stands, that school directors are voted to be the representatives of the electorate and have the discretion to act as they deem best. We were advised by council that we do not have to warn this for an Australian ballot vote, because that is not something that the voters are allowed to vote on, flag raising. With regard to the second topic of a special meeting, first and foremost, and this is just an important thing that you don't need a lawyer to tell you, is that we are in the middle of a pandemic and there will be no in-person meetings because our governor is telling us that we should not be meeting in person. And that's evidenced by the fact that we have no intention as a board to be meeting in person anytime in the foreseeable future. We want to keep ourselves, our families, our community members safe, and that's the way we're going to operate. That being said, we have had a lot of public input here tonight. We have had a lot of public input at the 2 community engagement meetings that were held prior to this meeting between the June 17th vote and now. and public comment is available at every meeting, and we certainly encourage our voters and the people of the public who have an opinion to please come forward and let us know what that is. That is what helps to guide us in making these decisions. If we hear from people, we know how they feel on issues. We will work towards, our community engagement committee has been doing wonderful work in trying to facilitate more opportunities for the public to voice their opinions and voice their comments to the board. And we will continue to do that. And that is what we were advised from a legal perspective. So I will turn it all over to the rest of you to please chime in as you see fit. Who would like to speak first? Don't all jump in at once. Adrian, go ahead.
We had a similar situation in Shrewsbury years ago where a variety of townspeople signed a petition to close the school, and we sought legal advice and were told not to do it. One of the things that we were told was, oh, well, you could have an advisory vote, but then people will feel that you are bound by the decision, and you don't know who will be making what claims and how long this conversation would go on if we do that. The very act of holding a vote in these pandemic times is risky. Just the fact that we're voting on in the primary and in the vote in November has caused huge troubles for all of the town offices in how to hold safe votes. I think they might have a small fit if we just come up and say, hi, there's a third election that we'd like you to handle. And it's not binding, but we're just going to do it. We've listened to many, many, many comments, and I personally have heard everything that everybody has said. And I stand by my vote, and I hope that we have no further discussion of this after tonight.
John.
I just want to very briefly quote Albert Einstein: doing what's right isn't always popular, and doing what's popular isn't always right. This is right. I think we've heard from more people that support this than oppose it. And I am absolutely still 100% behind the decision, and like Adrian, hope that we can put this to bed and move on and get those flags raised.
Okay. Len.
Hi there. Obviously, I did, in fact, vote for raising the flags. I've had a difficult time, and let me start by saying I do not oppose the raising of those flags at all. What bothers me is the lack of preparedness that, and I'll point to me, to deal with the dynamics of raising those flags. Not the flags themselves, but what occurs as a result of raising those flags. I get concerned that we have opened a Pandora's box. And again, as I said, while I do not oppose raising of the flags, I think we could have spent more time planning before we voted to raise them. And I was going to make a motion, because I voted yes, that to go against that vote. I don't think it would pass. So it doesn't make sense for me to go that route. But I just feel very strongly that we did not do our due diligence in terms of preparation. And I'll speak again for myself. I'm not saying that's true of everybody. but it certainly was of me. So I guess from my perspective, I made the decision. I will live with that, but I do hope that going forward, we make sure that we look at all of the ramifications of that decision and plan accordingly. I think that's key. And I don't think we did a very good job of that. And that, to me, in my mind, that may end up coming back to bite us. And that worries me a lot.
Maria.
I hear your concern, Len, that there have been strong reactions to what we've decided to do, and there's a lot of work that we need to do in order to prepare to raise the flags in a way that's appropriate for the students in all the schools and that supports all of them as much as possible. I think we have been doing a lot of work. We've been working for years right now on trying to create an equity plan and to focus on equity in our schools. And yes, this puts some pressure on us to dive in deep from the beginning, but the flags are only a tiny piece of what we're doing. And I think the rest of the framework will help support our schools during this process.
Amy, is that you, or are you just adjusting your screen?
Yes. Can you see me okay?
Yep.
I absolutely relate to the mother who called in from the bathroom. I have kind of been sent out to the front porch, which is the only place I have privacy at this time. So it's a little dark. It's not ideal, but thank you for tolerating it. To speak to Len's point, which I really value, I think it's so important to have framework in place for a successful implementation. To Maria's point, it's a timely decision, and I really think that we're at a place where we're out of time and we don't have time. We don't have another month or two or year to kind of consider how we're going to show support to our students of color and our students that identify as LGBTQ. And so as you are all aware, I did vote in favor. I think that it's very important to support the students that we have. I've had a lot of feedback being the sole representative from Timoth. I have heard back from many residents, some in opposition and some in support. It's been difficult and challenging to kind of sort through how divided our community is. Everyone on the board knows how much I love Timoth and how it's such a very special, really unique place, and how much I love being part of a community that comes together at all times and is so supportive. So I've had some difficulty in kind of navigating the opposition for my decision to vote in favor. But I think that it's the right thing to do. And I'm so grateful for all of the people who came and shared their experience, and for students who shared their experience. I have not gone to school in Vermont. I was definitely raised in an area that's similar to where we live now, but hearing the experiences of our past and current students at Mill River, I think it's time, and I think it's appropriate. I stand by my vote, and I'm incredibly proud of our board for this decision going forward.
Thank you. DJ.
So I was not at that meeting that we voted. And I'm going to leave with something that a story that a friend of mine said, was telling me about. I'm friends with a minority, but he is a very inspirational athlete and a member of our community. Someone who is that big, they like to run. And for me, I could go to any one of the schools, park, put on some sneakers, and go run around the schools, go run around the community in that area, and not think twice. This particular person, like I said, who is a big part of our community, inspirational, he tried it once. And he got pulled over by the police. He stopped by the police in our community. To that, there is a problem in our community. And that's one story. My daughter, who is a and that leads to the BLM. My daughter, she's a Mill River student. 2 of her good friends identify as LGBTQ, and her herself is exploring what it means to be a teenager. So I didn't get to vote. I think it's a absolute shame that the expression Black Lives Matter has become political and has had bad things happen both for and against it. But we definitely needed to do something. And the best thing that's come out of these flags going up is that the conversations has happened. So for that alone, I say I am in support of it. Although I think it is a shame what has happened outside of the realms.
Thank you, BJ. George. You're muted.
Yeah.
Okay, there you are.
Well,
Stop putting it. Okay.
hello. I guess I just have a question. I'm not going to get into for or against, but the question I have is, I don't know, but who knows what's the regulations, protocol regarding the U.S. and state flag? I mean, is there any conflict there? I don't know. That's it.
You mean with regard to flying another flag on the same pole?
Yes, yes.
No statute that addresses that, to my knowledge. Liz is shaking her head no. We will let Liz jump in because she also had her hand raised. Then if you're done, George.
I read statute in my spare time, and that's a fact.
Wow, you're better than I am. Goodness gracious, I'm a lawyer. I don't read statute in my
I pick and choose what I read. The statute just says that we may fly a United States flag and a Vermont state flag, and that's it.
Did you have something else that you wanted to say prior to George's comment? Oh,
I want to jump in, but there were people ahead of me. I was just speaking to the statute. There's no language in the statute that prohibits flying other flags.
Okay.
Or sharing a flagpole.
Okay, we'll let Doug talk then. Doug?
Oh, well, this has been fun. I don't regret making the decision I made to vote no. I've had some pushback out of those in the community. I've had a threat thrown to my way, so I'm going to make sure I keep myself close to protection. The reason I chose to vote no was not because I think that there are no racism units in the school. As most of you know, and maybe some of you don't, my wife and I had 2 biological children, and we adopted 6 over the course of 7 years. 5 of which were African American. 1 was biracial, and everybody had their little quirks and stuff, but they all had hard times going through school. I remember one time when one of my sons was in what we had a workshop at one time, and they were making cricket bats, and a group of kids decided to write the N-word in melted in to the bat. He went to the principal, and the principal at the time said he talked to some people and make it work through, but nothing really happened. So the next day he went in and he wrote the word cracker on the other guy's thing there. I'm glad to see he didn't get himself in trouble because the other guy didn't either. There is ways to change within the school without putting a flag up that is demonstrative, I think is the word I'm looking for, of an organization that's not a good organization. It has many downsizes. It's got a large part of their money coming into them is donated to them through a gentleman by the name of George Soros. He has a large group of people that he donates to that. His real reason for doing that is getting rid of our current president. There's also others that are doing the same way. There's coordinators of BLM corporation in above New York City that says if we don't conflict and come back to what BLM wants to do, they're going to burn us down. I don't think that they're talking about burning down with fire, but I'm thinking it was something close to that. But what really pushed me to that point was about 3 days before the vote came up, which I didn't know at the time anyway. There was a conglomerate of people, although not from Black Lives Matter, or from another corporation that works with them. They defaced the Lincoln place down in Washington really badly and put a Black Lives Matter tag on the back. But what bothered me more than anything else is the next day, Black Lives Matter came out through with one of their spokesperson and said that Lincoln was racist. That's a man that freed as many slaves as he possibly could, spent years doing it. The only thing he got for it was a bullet in the back of the head. The organization is what I'm actually against. It's not against the flag itself, but the organization is represented by that. We can do the change and do the curriculum work and do what it takes to do the training and the education inside the school without putting something like that up on a flagpole with the national flag and the state of Vermont flag. Thank you.
What do you have to, I assume it's an administrative thing, or is it a question, a comment?
I did some research for George on his question. I looked up the U.S. flag code. What I have to share won't surprise anyone. When flags of states, cities, or otherwise are flown on the same staff, the U.S. flag must be at the top. George, add this to your repertoire of interesting facts. There is one exception to that. That would be during church services conducted at sea by Navy chaplains. So that is the scenario where the U.S. flag would not be at the top. And it's common practice when you have multiple flags on one staff that the U.S. flag is the largest. But that's the extent of what I can find related to your question.
Excellent. Liz, now did you want to speak?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I voted in favor of flying the Black Lives Matter flag, and I stand by that decision. For me, as someone who is a trained public school educator, I have a current license. It's very interesting for me to watch this as an adult. I see a lot of dissonance in our community members, and as public school educators, we talk about dissonance. Dissonance is where the learning happens. If you feel uncomfortable, notice that you're learning. In education, we talk about growth mindsets versus fixed mindsets. The growth mindset is, I can do this over time and with effort. And the fixed mindset is, I can't do this. I'll never be able to do it. And the best mindset for optimizing learning is a growth mindset. And so I just want people to notice, I see people expressing dissonance, shows up in adults as fear. And I want you all to notice that there's a word for it, and it's xenophobia. And there are people in our community who they feel threatened by flying the Black Lives Matter flag or raising the pride flag. And I just don't agree with that. We're talking about showing solidarity and support for historically marginalized persons. And to Len's point, I'm not here to do what's easy. I'm here to do what's right. And, when we say one nation with liberty and justice, we haven't attained that. So let's work towards that. I do hear a narrative of these moves are divisive, and I do not agree with that. I think they are unifying because, again, we are showing solidarity with historically underrepresented and marginalized communities. I've also heard accusations of indoctrination come up, and my belief is that flying these flags is the exact opposite of indoctrination. People who accuse us of indoctrination, I believe, are coming from a place of indoctrination. And again, they feel like their status is threatened. So I just want to challenge people to notice what's coming up for them. What else did I write here? I do want to just say, Doug, I am concerned that you seem to be quoting fake anti-Semitic rhetoric. That is of concern to me. When Black Lives Matter protesters talk about burning systems down, it's metaphorical. And that's all I have to say tonight. I stand by my support of flying both of these flags.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Andy, did you have anything you wanted to chime in from wherever you are, which is by the water, I know, and thank you for joining us. You're muted.
There.
There you
okay.
are.
Good. Then I wanted to respond to you about your concerns that we had not given this enough thought and weren't prepared for the ramifications. We could have spent a great deal of time, many more months preparing. We were something of this magnitude. We are always going to have ramifications. And when we get to early September, late August, and we raise the flag, we are going to see a great deal more. We are doing something that's long overdue and very difficult. And this is what is going to happen. So it has to happen. We have decided the time is now, and we have to continue with it. I'd be very upset if we changed our minds.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any other comments? We have to put together a formal response. I will certainly draft that based upon what we discussed both in executive session, that was confidential attorney information, and then what we've discussed on the record, so to speak, tonight and shared. And I will circulate that among everybody, and I would welcome your input to that, and we will get that back to the petitioners. Again, I know it was a large undertaking on their part. I believe that they voiced concerns, and some of those concerns may come from a place of not understanding certain things or certain aspects of this, and it could just be the way people feel, and their feelings are justified. And I wanted to just acknowledge that publicly, that we appreciate all the work that they did for that petition. We will respond to them, and that response will also be made public. I would presume we will post that also, if everyone's agreeable. Yes, I see nods. Good. So we will move on to, we have to discuss the equity work, and Jody has been patiently waiting through all of this because I know she has some questions and things that she needs from us on that same front. So Jody, I could turn it over to you. You want to jump in now. Thank you.
Jody, do you mind if I just paint context for the group before we?
Sure. Sorry.
So I'd really recommend, if the board agrees to it, just combining items 6 and 7 because they are directly interrelated. So with our equity work and with our equity policy and with our 3-year equity plan, hopefully the board recalls, and this is all public, it's on the website, easily accessible. There's a board professional development component of our equity plan, and Jody and I'd like to begin a conversation with you this evening about how we want to get that started, what we want the structure to be, when, and we have some ideas about different types of resources that we can access. But we definitely wanted to have Jody provide an update on the work she's leading around the flag raising effort. And as you mentioned, Tammy, Jody has some specific questions that she could use some feedback from the board on. So I will defer to Jody at this time.
Thank you, Dave.
Good to see you all. Thank you. I've enjoyed listening to tonight's dialogue. So the flag committee, which is made up of a representative group of school staff, including teachers, administrators, and paraprofessionals, current students, parents, and people who represent historically marginalized groups and people who do not represent historically marginalized groups. So it's a very balanced group, all with significant ties to our district. And we met once so far, and discussed kind of the ideas of what we could do with the flag raisings that would be most appropriate given our current state within a pandemic, and to be meaningful in being an action that can help provide contextualization and education. There's a couple specific questions that the committee would like some feedback from the board on, and I will take these back to our next meeting. So the first question that we had was length of time that the flags are intended to be raised through the actions of the board, just to get an idea of what the board is thinking on when the flags will fly and when they'll come back down. I'll give you all the questions and then maybe discuss after that. The separate thing was some board members or some committee members were wondering about whether when the board voted to raise both flags, they envisioned raising them both at the same time or separating those flag raisings into two separate events. And the third question was, when we speak about raising the pride flag, the Black Lives Matter flag is a pretty commonly understood flag. The pride flag, there's many iterations of a pride flag. And so the question was, which pride flag was the thought behind raising it? So the committee's suggestions, one was the Philadelphia flag, which is a traditional pride flag with brown and black stripes added to represent historically marginalized people of color within the LGBTQ+ community. IA community, sorry. And the second one is the Progress Pride flag. And that one has the black and brown stripes to represent marginalized LGBTQIA communities of color, and pink, light blue, and white pieces, which are about transgender pride. And so those were the three main questions that the committee would like some feedback on.
Okay. Who would like to go first? Opinions, comments, thoughts? Amy, go ahead.
Hi, Jody.
Hi, Amy.
First of all, thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing, you and the committee. I just think it's really incredible. I'm always impressed by you, and I think it's really meaningful. So thank you. I know you're putting a lot of time and energy into it, and it means a lot. We had talked about this previously. I was thinking it might be appropriate to raise both flags for the first week of school. That way we're opening the school year with the spirit of inclusivity and acceptance. I don't know that it's sustainable to continue to fly both flags throughout the entire school year. And so then I would suggest that perhaps we consider flying the BLM flag during Black History Month and the Philadelphia flag, which is the flag that I would choose out of those that you had suggested. And perhaps we fly that during Pride Month and we make that part of our annual schedule and part of our curriculum and tie into other events during those significant times. So that's just a recommendation for the committee to consider.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Tammy.
Len, go ahead.
Sorry, have to unmute myself. My only statement would be on whether the flag raising, the two flags should be raised separately. And I really think in order to give the biggest impact to each of those flags being raised would be to do it separately. Just because that way, I just think it has a larger impact on the community that way. Raising them both at the same time, I think, sort of takes away from each. So that's the only thing I would say.
Thank you, Len. George.
Don't touch it. Hi. This is going to surprise you. I liked Amy's suggestion very much, and I would support that.
John.
I would like to see us raise the flags for the entire school year this year, and then revisit the time frame for the following year, perhaps even doing that on an annual basis. But I think at least for the first year that we're doing this, I think it should be, both flags should be up for the full school year. I'm not sure where the logistical issues would be with that. But I think we're trying to make a statement that we support these groups, and I think we should make it a year-long statement. As far as the pride flags go, the choice of which one we go with, I'm kind of leaning towards the one that is the most inclusive. So the one with the extra stripes for the transgender folks, I think would be appropriate. And as far as when we raise each flag, I think raising the Black Lives Matter flag at the beginning of school, as discussed, is a good idea. And I can't remember the date later in the year, but there was a point later in the year that's especially important to the LGBTQIA community. I think it's Coming Out Day. I don't remember what it is. I think that would be an appropriate time to raise that flag. So I think those are the three questions. Those are my opinions on them.
Liz.
Okay, can I just check that we're talking about the timing of raising the flags, which flag, and the duration of flying the flags? Okay. Okay, so I would like to raise the Black Lives Matter flag the first week of school, and then I would like to support John's point that the pride flag be raised during Coming Out Week, which is the week of October 12th. And that way, you know, we're not clumping two things that, you know, we're not competing. One is not eclipsing the other. That, you know, the Black Lives Matter flag has its learning and framework, and then separately the pride flag has its learning and framework. I would like to fly these flags in perpetuity, forever and ever. And then as far as pride flags go, I don't know what the Philadelphia flag is, Amy, but is that the progress flag, the one that's got the same?
So the Philadelphia flag is the pride flag that also has stripes to be inclusive of people. It has brown and black flag stripes to represent marginalized communities of color. The progress flag also includes trans rights.
Oh, okay. So I would like to fly, and I have it up if anybody wants to see it, I'm happy to present. But I would like to, I think we talked about considering the progress flag. See, is that the most inclusive? Okay, so I would support the most inclusive flag, which I think John raised.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you. Maria.
I would just like to, not second, but third what Liz and John have said. I agree that we should separate the raising of the flags so that each one gets a proper attention and necessary education around it. And I also support the most inclusive flag, which would be the progress flag.
Okay. Adrian. You're muted.
I'm trying.
Oh, there you are.
Yep, muted myself once or twice, all in the same progress. I'd like an explanation after I'm done in the difference between the two flags. I understand that the comment is that the most inclusive is the progress flag, but I'm not sure I understand the differences between the two. I like the timing that Liz suggested, and I understand the reasoning, and I agree with it. I also think the first year we could very, very easily and should fly the flags the whole year. And I do think when we're writing the flag procedures, the flag policy, whatever we decide to term it, that we look at these things on an annual basis, if not more often, and decide what's going on. That's it.
Thank you. Andy.
There. Seems I have to double click my I agree with John, Maria, Liz. That's what I wanted to include. So,
Thank you. Oh, I see a link to those, the flags. Maybe in answer to Adrian's question, Jody, if you have it up on your screen, can you do you have a description that you could explain the difference? Is that what you wanted, Adrian? Yeah.
I am dropping both into a Google Doc right now, which I will attempt to screen share with you.
Oh.
Oh. Or we've got real time.
Oh.
So that one is the progress flag.
And that's the most inclusive one. Thank you, George, for that.
George had that on hand, okay?
I actually missed it. George, will you do that again?
It's his daughters. It's Skylar's. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
So that is the progress flag. That is the one that is most inclusive.
Okay. PJ.
I really liked where Amy was coming from about making an initial statement and then flying them on their or during the open or during an appropriate educational time. I would say halfway. I would almost want to say I would not mind displaying them year round, but maybe utilizing the flat with them on the flagpole only at specific times that are educationally appropriate. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Okay. And I am not I'm not educated enough to make the decision about which flag to go with. And I'm going to leave it at that because I think that is something that we need to do. Whatever flag we fly I need to learn that. And that's probably back to the PD that will come. So,
Okay.
bye.
Thank you. I would just like to chime in, and I kind of lean towards what Amy said about that they should, in some form, maybe be available at the beginning of the school year. We don't know what the school year is going to look like, but I'd love for all of our students to feel included and welcomed, and maybe not have to wait another month or a month and a half to feel that way if your flag is not that flag. So I don't know if maybe we could alternatively, like BJ said, maybe display flags that aren't being flown yet in a location in the school somewhere, so that those students who relate to those flags feel welcomed. That's just my 2 cents. John, sorry, wrong. You're on opposite sides.
I just want to say that cis white people get 11 months a year, 12 months a year of history. I don't think it's fair to put marginalized groups into just pigeonholed times of year as has been historically done. I think if we're going to do this, we need to do this all year. And I think anything else is in opposition to what we are trying to do. White people get 12 months a year for their history. 1 month is not enough for Black history. There's far more out there that is never discussed, is never taught in our classrooms, and that needs to change. And the only way that's going to change is if it becomes a regular part of our curriculum and our history lessons. And I really strongly believe that we need to do this all year for those communities because they've been marginalized, and marginalized means on the outside, getting less, being less. I don't think that I think that takes away from the statement we're trying to make.
BJ.
I don't disagree with the year-round thing by any means. My initial thought process around it, though, is we opened a little Pandora's box, and this could expand. And I want to be able to be respectful to that expansion. So, I mean, I don't want a flagpole that has every single flag going all the way from top down to the bottom. So I'd really like to come up with a solution that does respect and display them year round, but doesn't necessarily, and can grow. We can grow from this. So just, Jody, that's something to think about. Is it works well with these two flags right now to put them on the flagpole, but if there are other ones that we decide that really are representative of our student body, I would like the option to add those to the mix, and I want to do that in a permanent fashion. I keep thinking Olympics type of a deal.
Understood. And just a process question, would the board like to come to a consensus on these three questions, or just have me take your feedback back to the committee and have the committee make the final decision?
I personally would think that if you feel comfortable taking our feedback back, I feel that the committee is the best representation of maybe making that decision. And if they can't decide and you need us to decide, then maybe bring it back to the board. I mean, that's just my opinion, but I see a couple thumbs up. And Len has a question. Yes, Len, or a comment.
Yeah. Because I'm not sure exactly how the flag committee is working. I mean, the board has made the decision to fly the flags, and it'll be up to the committee to sort of come up with the when and the how kind of thing about actually raising them. And my question, I guess, would be, at some point, does that come back to the board for us to make a decision on, or does the flag committee make the decision and that's that? I don't know.
Great question.
Yeah.
Adrian, go ahead.
I would suggest that the flag committee come up with a plan and then submit it to the board the way every other committee works.
That makes sense. Dave.
Tammy, would it be okay if I just shared an opinion as a non-board member for the record?
Absolutely.
As I've watched and participated in this conversation, I believe that the board made the decision to raise the flags for a reason. And I believe that reason actually was captured really well by two of the speakers tonight. Christian Brand made a comment that resonated to me when he was talking about the word all, and what the word all meant in the founding days of our country and what that means now. I found that to be very, very compelling. Heather Kent made a comment as well that the flags essentially say to our students of color and to our LGBTQIA students and other marginalized groups that we see you. And I just want to suggest to the board that if that is in fact what the flags mean, and that is in fact the reason why you've made a decision to raise the flags, I think we should just keep in the back of our minds what being seen means and what the flags being seen means and how that intersects, with our students. This is about our kids. This is about folks feeling like they belong and that our schools are a welcoming and safe place for them. So I just ask everybody, including the flag group committee, to keep that in the back of their minds.
Good point, Dave. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have anything to add? Jody, Len? Yep. No problem. You are all lucky that I did not just drop off the meeting tonight just by way of technology. I told Dave earlier, if I either freeze or disappear, it's because my internet was going in and out all day today.
There I go. Sorry. So, Jody, I didn't hear what your response was in terms of whether the board decides or the flag committee decides.
So I feel comfortable that the board has given some strong direction at this point to lead the committee. I think the committee has a very diverse representation, including people with a lot more expertise in some areas of equity than I have. And so I feel comfortable, if the board is comfortable, coming back to the committee with your feedback, sharing it with them, working collaboratively with that committee to make some decisions around the raising of these flags, and then sharing out back with the board some just, basic main ideas, at which point the board could provide any further feedback or request for amendment as needed at the next time that you guys thought that would be appropriate. I just want to caution that time is ticking down to that very beginning of school year. So I will be meeting with the committee tomorrow. I can have that as soon as your next board meeting. You just let me know where to be.
Great. Thank you, Jody. That sounds good. Does that sound good with everybody?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just put something out there quickly? And I'm sorry, I apologize, but as a language teacher, it's come up twice during this call this evening, and this is a long call, but twice Pandora's box has come up, and Pandora's box, it has a very negative connotation, and none of this, I don't want any of this to be framed in terms of Pandora's box. So, there is, again, dissonance with learning. That's okay. Everybody's learning. We're all growing. It's all positive. So that's my ask. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Okay. And did you want to address the board PD part now?
Yes, absolutely. And this won't take long. I just would like to talk process with you and have Jody weigh in potentially. Once we get back into our normal rhythm of meeting, we already have a vehicle in place for board professional development. If you recall, way back in like February when, the world was a different place, first meeting of the month, we had a typical meeting, and the second board meeting of the month, we would usually front that with a professional development session and have a thinner agenda after that, just, the very necessary business. And we're prepared for that kind of rhythm to continue. As Jody and I talk administratively, we're starting to plan our professional development for the leadership team that's a part of our policy and equity plan. And, we're kind of eyeing duration of maybe 3 or 4 sessions, which could occur across like 3 or 4 months if you think about our hourly PD sessions that occur with the board. And we would like to look at some options and come back to you with some options that we think are solid. If we find that there's one recommendation we think is the best, we'll bring you one. If there are multiple that we like to get some perspective from you, we would do that. But if it's okay, would love to bring that to you during the month of August for the board to contemplate, because as you wouldn't be surprised, professional developers in this realm are starting to get busier and busier across the country. So there is the matter of how do you schedule people and get things that fit our schedule. So just wanted to throw that out for any quick reaction. And if it's okay with the board, we'll keep plugging ahead with that conceptually. Jody, anything you'd add to that I missed?
Gotcha.
I would just add that one thing that Dave and I have been looking at as a lens is making sure that the professional development that we are providing for all of district staff and for our leadership team also dovetails nicely with professional development that we are looking into on behalf of the board. And so just thinking about making sure that we're all working towards the same pieces of these goals at the same time is one thing that we've been planning for.
George, you had a comment.
I do. I need to talk about Liz and her Pandora problem. I was just wondering, and I couldn't let this go, I was just wondering if we follow her recommendation, does that mean we're thinking out of the box?
There's our guy. There's George.
George, you've lent some much needed comic relief to our evening so far. One thing I'd like to just bring up while I'm thinking of it is Amy, the person that you were going to have potentially come and talk to us to do some de-escalation type training, which I think is really important. Can you find out what their availability is in the coming months so we can coordinate that maybe with Dave and Jody and make sure we don't leave that piece of it out, because that's a very important piece too.
Absolutely. And I think that might be a really great place to start while we're looking at our development going forward, to have her come in August, provide us with that immediate PD opportunity while we're still working on lining up the other speakers like Dave talked about. So I will email you tomorrow, Tammy, and let you know for sure if that's okay.
That would be perfect. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now moving along. Do you need anything else from us on those two aspects, 6 and 7? Nope.
No, we're good to go with those. And Jody, thanks for your time. You do not have to hang around with us any longer unless you are a glutton for punishment and want to stay with us.
Well, you're a fascinating crowd, but I have young children that have not gone to bed yet. So see you soon.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you for all your work. Thank you. Have a good night. So Dave, tell us about August reopening.
Yeah, I will try to be brief. Thankfully, we as a district, we're in a good place as far as our planning goes for reopening. As you know, as a board, our administrative team started working in April, looking ahead at what August and September and October might look like. So we are in a decent place. I am able to communicate with parents, staff, and board members basically every Friday. That's the routine and the rhythm that we have fallen into, and that will continue to be the case throughout the rest of this summer. Where we are right now is we have our overall plan for reopening in place. That plan is based on the expectation set forth by the state that we do what we can to resume in-person classroom instruction. There are very extensive health and safety guidelines that we're required to meet that include all kinds of actions and steps, from everyone wearing facial coverings while they're involved in the school process on buses and buildings, etc. Health screenings on a daily basis, lots of social distancing, really school that does not look or feel anything like school used to look and feel. We are prepared for that, still have a few more pieces that need to fall into place for that, but we're plugging along, and I'm pleased with the progress that's being made. I do need to say, though, that as a superintendent, I continue to have significant concerns about what that will look like and whether that will be the most effective way for us to begin the school year. When we watch what's going on across the country, when we watch the escalation of cases of COVID in different places, when we watch the trends, when we watch the governor of Vermont, who has been resisting a mask order for the past 4 months, is creeping towards something like that happening probably very soon. I wouldn't be shocked if it happened on Friday. We are seeing the dynamics around the virus changing. And because of that, not to look for pity, but I have the burden of knowing that the decision that I make about how the school year begins can actually affect people's lives. I also know that decision can affect people's livelihoods. That decision can affect people's health. And anything that we might decide to do in terms of opening school will present problems regardless, because the pandemic presents problems to us persistently. I need you to know as a board, and I need the community to know, that the concept of fully remote start to the school year is still on the table for us. I am analyzing this very closely. I am looking across the next week and a half at landing in a spot. Like I've said, we're prepared with an in-person open, but I am strongly looking at what it would look like to open our school year remotely. I'm very aware of the ramifications of a decision like that to open our school year remotely. I'm very aware that when we started our remote experience in March, we were in emergency mode. Everyone was scrambling. There are some things we did well, and there are some things that we did poorly. Doesn't mean everyone didn't try their hardest, but it just means that things could be done better. So if you're in a remote scenario, it has to be of higher quality and higher impact than what we experienced this past spring. I'm very aware that many parents do rely on our schools as their primary child care source, and a decision that involves remote learning does affect families in ways that are challenging, to say the least. The best thing we can do for folks if we have to go down that road is give them time to prepare. Same thing goes for our teachers. If we should go down that road, teachers need time to prepare and be ready for that type of environment. So just to let you know, basic timelines, today's Wednesday, the 22nd. I am really eyeing my communication to families next Friday, the 31st. I will send out an email to families this Friday, along with the board and staff. But next Friday, the 31st, is my target date for a decision one way or the other on whether we open in an in-person format or whether we open in a remote format. What I'm contemplating if we do open in a remote format is that we would open for a specified period of time in remote and watch what happens in other places, engage the virus, engage the impacts on schools, and give ourselves some decision points where we could decide when an in-person return was most appropriate and feasible and safe, to be honest. The last comment I'll make on this is one of the biggest challenges I experience as a leader in this pandemic context is the reality that in schools, we always think first about student learning, student social dynamics, relationships, and the fabric of school, the things that people love about school. We always assume that safety is kind of baked into that whole experience because people are well-intentioned and we take precautions and we do what we can. In the COVID context, safety is absolute number one, and it's actually number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what that does is it pushes some of those other important things during normal times, like what's the higher quality learning experience for kid, or how do we maintain student relationships, or how can we best support families with specific needs. It pushes some of those down. That doesn't mean that I'm pleased about that. It doesn't mean that I think that that's the best scenario. But in the world we're in right now, safety is the absolute top priority. So that's what I'm weighing over the coming days. As a board, I will continue to keep you informed. I welcome any feedback from you now or in the days ahead. And I'm grateful for you letting me talk through it tonight.
Okay. Anyone have any feedback or comments for Dave that he doesn't already know or want to say? Amy, did you?
I just want to say thank you, Dave, to you and your team. This is a really incredible undertaking. It's unprecedented, and none of us ever could have thought this time last year that we would be faced with something like this. As a healthcare professional, as a mother, I really know that you have really the best interest for the health and safety of our students in the community. I just want you to know how much that means to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. I'm grateful for that. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Adrian.
I wanted to ditto that comment. I have been very impressed. I don't know if all of you see Dave in other settings, but I do. I mean, I've seen him on multiple phone calls and Zoom calls around in the VSBA and VSA type settings, and he represents us well, and I want you all to know that. And thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Adrian. You don't have to say nice things about me right now. Honestly, I'll take it, but just wanted to give everybody an update.
Well, thank you. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay, moving on. We will get to our committee reports. Len, personnel, are you ready? No problem.
There we go. Sorry about that. It pops up and then disappears for some reason. Yes, we did have a personnel committee meeting a day ago. No, it was earlier tonight. Okay, it just seems like a day. Sorry. And so there is some board action that's requested. First of all, to approve a contract for Tara Canciabello as third grade teacher at Wallingford Elementary School, 1.0 FTE. And so I'll make a motion that we approve that contract.
Is there a second? Liz, thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the contract for Tara, please say aye. Raise your thumbs. Is everyone in favor? I see all positive. Yes, thank you.
Number 2 is to approve a contract for Katie Hanna, a 0.9 full-time equivalency as a pre-K paraeducator at Shrewsbury Mountain School. I make that a motion.
Second, please. Adrian, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the contract for Katie, please say aye. Raise your thumbs. Excellent. George, you're in, right? I think he's not paying attention, but you're in? Positive?
Okay, number 3, approve a contract for Colleen Levens, a .86 full-time equivalency pre-K primary para-educator, say that fast 3 times, at Shrewsbury Mountain School, and I make that motion.
And there's a second. Liz, thank you. Okay. Any discussion on that? All those my mouth is not working now. All those in favor of approving that contract, please say aye. Thumbs up. Okay.
One more. Approve a contract for Michaela Stone, 1.0 full-time equivalency, speech language pathologist. See, me too. Pathologist at in the Mill River Unified Union School District. I make that a motion.
Thank you. Second. Thank you, Liz. Okay. Any discussion on that one? All those in favor of approving that contract, thumbs up. Please say aye. All right. Got it.
Okay. Couple more things, if I might. Dave presented to the committee that we had been looking at 3 school counselor roles, addition to a pre-K coordinator and district arts coordinator role, and stated that those roles have not been pursued or filled in accordance with the previous board direction. And David was looking for some feedback, and everyone on the committee agreed that we should maintain that and not fill those positions. So I don't know, Dave, do you want to hear from the full board or what?
Len, I'm comfortable with either. I was seeking from either the committee or the board just affirmation that we should stay on pause with those newly created positions. So as long as there's kind of that affirmation, that's all good with me.
Okay. And then lastly, it was on the agenda for the superintendent to discuss the superintendent's evaluation. We did not do that in the committee. We're still waiting for a few evaluations to arrive. And once they do, then Maria and I will be getting together. We'll go through those evaluations, and we might ask BJ to help us with a matrix kind of thing. I haven't forgotten that, BJ. So hopefully when we meet August 5th, if we are in fact meeting August 5th, we could have another personnel committee, and hopefully by then, folks who haven't sent them in yet will send them in so that we can go through that evaluation process. That's all I have.
Great. I just want to, on behalf of the board, send our congratulations to those 4 new employees that we hired. And if we could all give them a little round of applause and welcome them, that would be great. Thank you. So we'll move
Tammy?
on. Yes, Andy, yes.
I'm going to depart and get back to my vacation now. So thank you everybody for a great board meeting, a lot of hard work we've done, and the work we have ahead of us. It's a pleasure to work with all of you. Thanks. Have a good evening.
Enjoy. Hey, BJ, you just switched from one side of the screen to the other on me. Policy.
Short and simple. Nothing new to report, and our next meeting, I think, is going to be August 4th at 5 p.m.
Great. Thank you. Negotiations, Adrian.
You caught me unprepared. I actually have a meeting to announce. We're reopening negotiations. The negotiating team for the teachers was, I guess, happy to hear from us, and we have a meeting on Monday.
Excellent. Thank you. John, buildings and grounds.
So we had a meeting last Tuesday, just sort of a recap of where we are with the buildings and COVID preparations and all of that. Nothing surprising. We did discuss the challenges of finding bus drivers with the new proposed routes. We're still coming up short by at least one body, and that's with both of the custodians who have their licenses pressed into service all the time, which was not ideal, but Getz is the only way we can get closer. So once again, anybody who knows someone who might be interested in driving a bus, let Gary know. We also had a discussion about a stormwater project that is going on in Wallingford. It is in very, very, very early preliminary phases right now. There's some, like, what they call 30% designs, which is just people throwing stuff on paper to get a rough idea of what it's going to look like. Basically, there are areas in the town that they are reworking the stormwater. One of the places that they are looking at dealing with the stormwater once it's off of the pavement is in an area of the lower field at Wallingford Elementary. Part of this work should also help with some drainage issues that we have at the school itself. There are some wet areas, particularly in the lower floors of the building and around the outside of the building, and this will help with that. What they are proposing to put in the ground, and it would all be underground, unseen. There would have to be some right of way to it for any repairs. That would be about the only impact. But what they are proposing is a series of tubes that sort of twist and turn like a solar heating element or things like that in the ground, and the water gradually seeps into the ground that way. It is one of the things that has been seriously looked at as a way to deal with the latest Act 250 stormwater, or not Act 250, but the latest stormwater regulations that everybody was talking about a few months ago until COVID hit. Mill River is going to have a lot of attention on it because it is a lot of impervious surface, and it is right on Otter Creek, which is the body of water that feeds directly into Lake Champlain, and where a lot of the pollutants from the farms in Addison and Chittenden County are getting into Lake Champlain. This structure is something that could be placed underneath the athletic fields without any impact to the fields themselves, but would give us the opportunity to quite literally level the playing field, which, if you've been on that field, it is not really all that level. There's a lot of dips and low spots and things like that. So this would be an interesting proving ground. Gary did give the engineers a preliminary, we'll keep talking about it, and but he wants to be directly involved in the design phases of it so that we make sure that our interests at that property are maintained. But this substructure will be an interesting trial for what we might be able to do to comply with those storm regulations at Mill River. Otherwise, similar discussions, like I said, about what's going on with the schools for coronavirus and getting ready to open up the schools. So that's about it. I don't think we're going to have a need for an August meeting. We said we were going to maybe kick it around at this meeting, but I don't know that we need one. If that is the case, then I think we are going to have one on September 1st, which would be the first Tuesday of September, just so that we can discuss how the opening of school went, assuming that we are opening the schools at that point, which we all know is still kind of up in the air a little bit. But I think that's going to be our plan unless something comes up.
Okay, great, John. Thank you. Maria, community engagement.
Hi, I will try to keep this short. I know we're all getting tired. So we've had a couple of meetings, as you mentioned before, since the last board meeting that have been well attended by community members, and we've been really grateful that people have shown up and shared in public comment. We've established an email address for the Community Engagement Committee that is communityengagement@millriverschools.org, and that is like a easy way for people to get in touch with the board. At this point, that email comes to me and I will forward it to the appropriate audience, be that the full board or to Dave or to another committee chair if necessary. So I'll take those as they come. If it starts to be a ton, then I will share that with other members of the committee. That's one thing. Let's see. Also, again, I appreciate our guests that we've had, and it's really helped us know hear your questions and have to think to respond to them thoughtfully, and also to know where there are gaps in information that's public information, but it's not necessarily easy to find. So to help make the board more transparent. There's we talked about the role of the Community Engagement Committee, that being to increase school board visibility and access, to build board engagement skills and capacity, and to inform district and goals. So that was all really useful. We talked about strategies for supporting the board in community conversations, and all of this overlaid with we have to do it virtually now for the foreseeable future, and that's been a lot of learning for all of us. So we're still working on that. We had another good meeting just last week, and we have another meeting coming up on August 17th at 7 p.m. And I just wanted to let people know what we've been hearing. I went through all of the emails that we've received since we voted to raise the flags, and altogether we've heard from, these are all rough estimates because some people wrote on behalf of families, some people wrote us to people, but we've heard from we've gotten about 77 emails. About 53 of those were supportive of our decision to raise the flag, and 23 of them were not in support of our decision. There were at least 6 of them were people who identified as teachers, 1 as former administrator, 6 specifically as alumni, but as you notice, there will be a letter that has been signed by a number of alumni, so that adds to that. 4 former board members, 1 student. And I know that those are just people who self-identified. There are other people among that. Nearly everyone who wrote was either a parent or a grandparent of a current or former Mill River student, besides the alumni. And all of the people who were related to educators, administrators, and alumni were all supportive of the decision that we made to raise the flags. Does anyone have any questions for the Community Engagement Committee, or should we move on?
I'd like to say thank you, guys. You really have done a tremendous amount of work on this and have taken a lot of flack. I appreciate it.
Yes, I would agree. I want to say, for those of you who were not on any of those meetings because you couldn't be for whatever reason, Adrian and I were trying to be on those, and as chair and vice chair. And I have to say that Maria, Len, John, you did. Maria, John, and Liz, and Amy, you guys did a wonderful job. Maria, you handled those meetings very well. Kudos to all of you. You got, unfortunately, the first round of people who were not happy and or happy, but you got the first round of that and handled it very gracefully. And for that, I am eternally grateful. Thank you so much to all of you. Yes, round of applause. Dave's correct. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I would like to say that I think it was fortunate that we had the support of the board to rush out a community engagement meeting well ahead of when we planned, and to have your presence, Tammy, and yours, Adrian, for those. That was really helpful. And I also another thing that we did to what we saw as theme concerns about going to be raising the flag. We did to the document on the website that could be added to the minutes if we could do that, if people would like to hear some more of the board responses to people's concerns.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Liz, we'll move on to you, finance.
Okay, I'm going to try to speak slowly because Google Meet doesn't work well when you talk quickly. So I'm going to start with a financial update, and then I'm going to move on to payroll warrants orders. So firstly, from the Education Legislative Report and the Joint Fiscal Office, a fiscal year 21 Order 1, Phase 1 General Fund budget has been passed. And Anne, I will send you my notes. The budget outlines coronavirus relief fund spending and education fund appropriations for the period July 1, 2020 through September 30. Act 120 makes available $50 million for costs incurred by the pandemic. The General Assembly has additional coronavirus relief fund money held in reserve for the education fund. And the Joint Fiscal Office Education Fund outlook projects a $105.4 million shortfall for fiscal year 21. On July 15th, the Secretary of Education opened up ESSER for application. That's the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, which is part of the Federal CARES Act from March. And these funds must be used by year end 2020. And the legislature will reconvene in late August and early September to address spending and appropriations for the remainder of fiscal year 21. So, does anybody have any questions before I move on to pay warrants and pay orders? No? Okay. Okay, so I will start with pay warrants for tonight. So I have, let's see, 6 payroll warrants dated July 22nd, 2020 from the general fund. I beg your pardon. Okay, so the first one is dated July 1st, 2020 from the general fund and is in the amount of $5,862.73. The second warrant is dated July 3rd, 2020, also from the general fund. No, I beg your pardon. I'm looking at the wrong thing. No,
You're doing
this is a,
payroll, right?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm doing pay. I'm getting tired, folks. Whoa, it's like almost my bedtime. All right, let me start over. This is a warrant. Okay. The first one dated July 1st, 2020. Right. This is payroll dated. I already said July 1st. Okay. $5,862.73. The second is for payroll dated July 3rd, 2020 in the amount of $18,908.15. The third, also payroll dated July 3rd, 2020 in the amount of $105,714.30. The fourth one, also payroll dated July 16th in the amount of $5,862.73. The fifth one, am I doing this right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Dated July 17th in the amount of $129,067.61. And the last warrant is dated July 17th, 2020 in the amount of $86,335.98 for a total of $3,751.50. And again, that is a payroll warrant. And I am really tired. And now to, what are these? Pay orders. Thank you. From the general fund, I have 2 pay orders dated July 17th. One in the amount of $13,038.38. And I have one in the amount of $1,744.80 for a total of $14,783.18. And I should note that that is for fiscal year 20. And then these next pay orders are for fiscal year 21, 2 checks. Also from the general fund, dated July 22nd, one in the amount of $24,384.33, and one that doesn't have a comma, that is $205,215.37. So this total is $229,599.70. So the total for pay orders is $244,382.88. Man, and I would like to, hold on, get back to my other screen. Let's see, I would like to make a motion that these payroll warrants and pay orders be approved as presented.
George is going to second that, I see. Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
Any discussion? George. Just go first.
Hi. I reviewed the payroll and pay orders. Very good job, Liz, even if you are tired. Well done. And everything seemed to be in good order. Just a couple of comments. There was one a pay order for Green Mountain Power in the amount of $20.91. So I'm not sure what that reflects, but it might have something to do with the solar. And then the other thing I wanted to note was we had spent of the 229,000 or whatever it was that Liz read, 200,000 of that was for health care. I bring that up just as a constant reminder to all of us that what it costs us for health care. I'm done.
Doug, did you have anything to add?
No, I didn't have a chance to look at it. I will look next day or two, and I'll get it off to Karen and then the signed copy.
Great, thank you. So hearing no other discussion, all those in favor of approving the pay orders and payroll as read, please say aye. Thumbs up. Okay. Anyone opposed? I see none. We're unanimous. Thank you very much. And then we will move on. We're getting to the end. Is there, George, any other legal business that we need to conduct?
Hi. This is probably not too legal, but I'm going to do it anyways. I just wanted to comment that this is the Monday. I was quite sad. This is the week that we had arranged and paid for a cottage on the coast of Maine for this week. But instead, I'm here with all you wonderful folks and enjoying this meeting. I'm done.
Okay. Any other legal business that we need? Okay. Hearing none. Agenda building. Are we meeting on August 5th? We are. Yes, Dave, I defer to. Yes, we're meeting on August 5th. We require a meeting.
Yeah, I think that would be wise in case we have hires or anything that we need to move on. That would be a good idea.
Okay. We definitely will have an update from you as to school reopening by then. Anything else that we have to address?
We need to wait another 8 minutes so we can claim that we went till 10 o'clock.
Oh goodness, I will talk very slowly. No, I don't think so.
You really don't need to.
We'll have personnel that night before the regular board meeting. I'm going to say 6 o'clock, and I'll send that out, but just so that the personnel committee is on the agenda.
Okay, great. Adrian, you might have some negotiations update maybe for us, possibly. Okay. Is there anything else that I'm missing? Okay. Hearing nothing else, we don't have any need for an executive session. That's my understanding. So we can adjourn at 9:53 p.m. unless you all like to hang around for another 7 minutes or so. No, I don't think so. Thank you all for your patience tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Good night,
Well done,
everybody.
everybody. Nice job.